When you finish strong, it builds confidence. It builds credibility. And that confidence and credibility comes from creating undeniable evidence that you are who you say you are. And the reason that a lot of us are having such difficulty around the holiday time is that there isn't this undeniable evidence that you are who you say you are. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Own It Show. I'm your host, Justin Roethlingshoefer, and I know we are well into the holidays now. And you may be feeling like you've got some highs and lows. You may be feeling like, man, I'm feeling a little bit of these late nights. I'm feeling a little bit of this brain fogginess, but I'm praying and hoping that that's not the case. But if it is, if on the slightest chance that's the case for you, today is, I hope, going to bring you back to some level of breakthrough, because I think around the holiday time, it can get so complicated. There's so many things you feel like you have to do. There's so many things that you feel like you have to take on. And what ends up happening is we end up feeling like, let's just throw it all away and get back on the train in January. And we know how that tale goes. And if you're like me, you know that Q4 is the time that you finish strong. I love this concept, finish strong. I just got back on filming day. I'm filming this on November 24th, so we're a couple weeks removed from this. But on this morning, I had just gotten back from a red-eye flight with Brandon. And when we think about the push of what Q4 is, I've known that Q4 was going to be a hard push to finish strong. We need to finish strong. Last night, in the last show that we did out in Spokane, same thing. It was the whole message for the weekend was, how do we finish strong? Finish the last of these 24 shows strong. And we did. And when you finish strong, it builds confidence. It builds credibility. And that confidence and credibility comes from creating undeniable evidence that you are who you say you are. And the reason that a lot of us and a lot of you listening are having such difficulty around the holiday time is that there isn't this undeniable evidence that you are who you say you are. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard thing to hear, especially the first 4 minutes of this podcast. But we're going to give you some things today that I think you can really hold on to, something that's going to create some handlebars as you press on through the last little bit of this 2025 year and into 2026 powerfully. Everybody who listens to this is a business owner, an entrepreneur, a leader. They're creating change, and they, quite frankly, are a catalyst for change in their communities. And oftentimes people in these positions, they're operating in extreme environments. What I mean by that is not that you're sleeping outside in blizzards and craziness, but the environments which you're operating in, you sit in the first seat. It's like first seat syndrome. Every room you go into, whether it's talking to your spouse, whether it's talking to your kids, whether it's talking to your employees, whether it's talking to your boards, you're always in the first chair, having to make the decision, solve the problem, bring the ideas, guide the conversation. And that's what I call extreme environments. And so just like Brandon was always been in an extreme environment, constantly traveling, constantly having to perform, constantly having to carry the spiritual weight of his calling, all constantly being away from his family. And what we did was we used these 7-day night routines that ultimately raised his HRV and kept him with a level of capacity to be able to move forward powerfully. So if we can do it for him, we can do it for you. And that's where your intentionality and your desire for ownership really comes in. Because when we think about whatever reason that you wake up tired, it's not necessarily that you're incapable, but it's rather that you've never given your body permission to recover. And we're going to switch that today. We are going to empower you, educate you, and equip you to step in powerfully to be able to do that and understand what this means. And the only ask that I have is, if today serves you, if it's something that blesses you, just share this with somebody. Share this with somebody, especially around the holiday time, as you're like, man, how do I get this back? How do I get this going? And I want to do this quickly, concisely, and easily for y'all, so that you can take this and start to really map it out and make it easy for you. So first things first, when we come back to the truth of why this matters and why I can sit here and guarantee that you're going to see improvements, is because it goes back to just scriptural basis, back to the Genesis story. Evening came, morning came, first day. That pattern repeats itself over and over and over again. The first pattern that was ever created in the history of humanity, the creation of the world, was day and night, light and darkness. And so that has to become a very critical rhythm for us. And this is what we're going to talk about. What's the night routines? And I hate how everyone talks about morning routines. Get up early, start working. Get up early, start working. But what about the evening routine? The evening routine is when we prepare. The evening routine is when we wind down. The evening routine is when we start to restore and when we prepare for what we're going to do tomorrow. Because even when you look at some of these different studies, Harvard put out so many different studies on melatonin, cortisol, circadian rhythm. And one of their best ones looked at blue light suppresses melatonin by up to 80% after sunset. Stanford, HRV rises with pre-sleep parasympathetic activation. So what that means is it rises as we start to have an intentional night routine. The NIH, eating within 3 hours of going to bed decreases sleep quality. We know sleep quality is tied to the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system is what detoxes our body. And so when we start to sit into this and realize that our chronically high cortisol levels disrupt our circadian rhythm, the circadian rhythm disrupts our ability to detoxify. Our ability to detoxify starts to ultimately make us feel brain fog and symptom full, which leads to low HRV. And yes, HRV is a metric. It's an outcome. It's a end cause, but it's a communication factor for how we can start to increase this. And so what I want to do is I want you to do this for a week. I'm going to ask you to commit for a week. If you're listening to this on a Tuesday, commit through the following Tuesday. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, listen or commit to this through the following Wednesday. But I'm asking you for a commitment for a very specific reason. Because what this is going to do is this is going to give you freedom to start to gain insight and understanding as to what's actually happening in your body and what matters for how you start to set your night up well. And the cool part is you don't need to go buy a bunch of things. The cool thing is you don't need to go and do a bunch of things. The cool thing is, quite frankly, you probably don't even need to change that much, but we do need to tighten the screws. If you're doing this at home, if you're doing this on the road, if you're doing this with family, if you're doing this alone, if you're doing this in a hotel room, or you're doing this at your ski house, you have the ability to take this everywhere. And that's why it's worked for Brandon. That's why it's worked for thousands of others. And that's why it is going to work for you. And so here's what I want you to do. Day 1, you're going to do one simple habit, one simple change. Then day 2, you're going to stack them. Day 3, stack the third one. Day 4, stack the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So over the course of 7 days, you are going to see how, and literally what I'm going to tell you takes anywhere from 4 seconds to 2 minutes. That's all this is. It's just some awareness and where we're walking and what we're doing. So day 1, the only thing I want you to do is the light reset. What the light reset is after the sun sets. After the sun sets, that might be at 5 p.m. wherever you are. That might be 8 p.m. wherever you are. What I want you to do is I want you to dim your lights. Just dim your lights. That's all you're doing. So instead of having the lights fully blasted, just dim the lights. If you don't have a dimmer, light some candles. If you don't light candles, turn on some lamps. There's so many ways to get around this, but the light reset. Day 1, dim your lights after the sun sets. Just dim them. Super easy, super simple. Not asking you to do anything other than pay attention to where do you dim your lights. In your bedroom, in your bathroom, in your living room, in your kitchen. If you're outdoors, definitely don't do a podcast late at night when you got light shining in your face. So it's a light reset. The second thing you're going to do, day 2, is you're going to do the temperature reset. And what the temperature reset is you're going to expose yourself to some type of cool temperature. It could be a cool or it could be a cool bath, could be a cold plunge for 30 seconds, could be a cool shower, could be that you bring the temperature in the house down, but you're going to do something very intentionally, okay? The temperature reset, cool the temperature. Ideally, you go into a cold plunge for 20 to 30 seconds just to bring the core temperature down. If you don't have a cold plunge, a cool shower will do. Super easy. If you're up north, maybe stand outside for 2 to 3 minutes. But super easy to allow the core temperature to start to drop. The third, nervous system reset. And we've talked about this before, but it's a simple breathwork sequence. You're going to go 2 inhale breaths through the nose, 1 audible exhale through the mouth. "20 rounds of that. So in and out by 20. Inhale as long as you can and hold on that 20th breath. And then slowly exhale when you need to take that next breath. In and out by 20, and then hold as long as you can, and then a slow exhale out when you need to take that next breath. That's the nervous system reset. Do that in the evening. The nutrition reset. We've talked about it. Just stop eating 3 hours before bed. So if you're going to bed at 10 p.m., last meal, Last thing you eat, done at 7 p.m. Boom, done, simple, easy. Day 5, the soul reset. The soul reset. What I want you to do is I want you to get into scripture. I want you to read one passage and I want you to meditate on it. So Lord, what are you wanting me to know from this? What are you wanting me to know from this in the moment I'm in right now? Again, take 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The sixth thing, the water reset. So instead of having harsh cold water and having a lot of it, we're going to have a simple cup of tea, 8 ounces or less, and ideally bonus points if you can make it out of fruit tree leaves. So apple leaves or peach tree leaves or pear tree leaves, any of those leaves, okay? It says in the Bible that fruit is for eating and nourishment, where their leaves are for healing. And then 7, the digital sunset reset. What this means is that, again, there will be a digital sunset where we put the phone away. There will be no more phones. No more phones, no more TVs, no more iPads, no more tablets. Now, it can be a little early, depending on where you are with the sunset, but at least 2 hours before bed, getting rid of all of those screens. So you're going to stack this one after the next, after the next, after the next. So first night, the light reset, make sure you get some lamps or dim the lights. Day 2, you're going to dim the lights when the sun sets. Then you're going to go get into a cold shower or a little cool cold plunge, whatever that looks like. Make sure you operate with that. Third day, maybe stack breath work with the cool area because that's the nervous system reset. Day 4, just make sure you have dinner before you go do those other things so that you're done by 7. Day 5, maybe right after you get out, you repeat some scripture and just meditate on that. Day 6 is the water reset. So making sure, again, have that hot cup of tea after you get out of the cold plunge or after you get out of the cold shower. And then day 7, the digital reset. Make sure all of your phones, all of your TVs, all of your tablets are shut off. And just watch how you now drift into a deep sleep powerfully rather than drifting into no man's land. And so when you start to do this, what ends up happening is the parasympathetic activation happens. You start to relax, you start to digest, you start to repair, and you start to feel better. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take these. I want you to track HRV before and after. And what I want you to notice is, what day did you start to see a big rise, a big spike? Was it day 1? Was it day 6? Was it day 3? And what we can start to do is we can start to tell which of these behaviors is the big rock for you. And so even if after this week you don't keep all of these behaviors on, what's the one thing you're going to keep on? What's the 2 things you're going to keep on? The ones that gave you the biggest spike, the things that gave you the biggest impact for the least amount of time. And that's how you start to stack this purposefully and intentionally. It's what we did for Brandon. It's how we created his routines. His routine is not the same today as it was a year and a half ago when we started. It's always changed. Mine, it changes every quarter because I'm adjusting. Sometimes it changes every month based upon the season I'm in. And so we have to be able to pay attention to what is there and what is happening, because we know that our body's created to heal. It's designed to repair, but the majority of that healing and repairing happens during sleep, the most important thing that we've done. And if we were ever built to get rid of sleep, if we were ever built to eliminate it, my gosh, we would have done it by now. Somebody would have figured it out. The one thing that we have to focus on, that we can't replace, we can't hack, and we can't switch out and have somebody else do it for us. Have to be able to lean in and do it intentionally. So over the next 7 days, stack those every single day. Make sure that you're intentional about looking at your data so you can know what's working, what's not. 2 big metrics, HRV and sleep quality. And then at the end of this, I'd love for you to send me a message or tag me on Instagram, showing me what you did, showing me the impact, and talking through the little bit of influence that it's had on your week. And this is how you can get back to basics in a very busy time, in the holiday season. You don't have to struggle through this. You can actually thrive through this, because I'm telling you, whether you have 50 people at your house that you're throwing for a holiday party, whether you're hosting Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, or whether you're just coming along for the ride and it's one of those off nights, you can add 2 minutes to your day to have an exponentially increase in good quality sleep at night. And that's how you live differently. We know success is different, so own your different, and we'll see you guys next week.